Hey everybody, Arnaldo here, broadcasting from Fidelio's Frequency. Welcome to my channel. Before we get started on the topic of today's video, I wanted to take the time to thank all of the subscribers, everyone that's been supporting the channel, providing feedback on previous videos and so forth. And I wanted to remind you that if you do like the content that you're seeing on this channel, it would help a ton if you click the subscription button, the subscribe button, as well as the bell notification so that you will be alerted whenever I drop a new video. It is free to subscribe. It does not cost you anything, but it does help the channel out quite a bit. So, Vinyl Me Please, the selections of the month of September. I'm a bit late this month due to other videos that took priority and also because the releases were shipped a bit later than usual, so I received them only maybe last week. So I skipped the month of August. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but I was not interested in the title that was being offered as the Essentials category, which is the main category that I have under my subscription. It was Bone Thugs and Harmony 1999 Eternal. So the great thing about Vinyl Me Please is that if you don't like the subscription, if you don't like the selection of the subscription, you can either opt for another title that's available, or you could swap for credit. So that's exactly what I did. I swapped for credit, and I eventually picked up a different album that probably I'll showcase in another video. But let's get to the month of September, and my main selection, my main category is the Essentials category. And for the month of September, we have the album Santigold by Santigold. Let's do a quick unboxing. I'll walk you through the content of the package, and then we'll get back and talk a little bit about the album. Okay, let's start off by the hype sticker as usual. It tells us it's a 15th anniversary edition, and the Obi. Pretty blank this time. There's really not much to it. Typically there's a blurb or a description on the back, but they did a really great job with the gatefold cover. Originally this was issued as a single sleeve. This one is a gatefold, heavy cardstock, tip-on like Stoughton type jacket with lyrics and credits on the inside. And of course we also get the really nice art print. Then we also have a booklet, a little on the smaller side this time, and with additional artwork, which I had never seen before in any previous version, and some more credits and lyrics. The vinyl, the lacquers were cut by Ryan K. Smith at Sterling Sound, and comes in a polyline sleeve, 180 gram on gold vinyl, flat, quiet, no issues whatsoever. A little bit about the album. Santigold, first of all, this album is celebrating its 15th anniversary. Came out in 2008. It was the debut album of Santi White, who at the time was known as Santigold, and I don't know if there was at one point a slight name change to Santigold. As a matter of fact, the initial copies of, I think maybe the first run of this album was released with the title Santigold instead of Santigold, as you can see here. So now she's known as Santigold. The name of the album was a self-titled one, and it was her debut. She was born in Philadelphia. She was part of the punk ensemble called Stift. And when she decided to go solo, John Hill, which is the other band member of Stift, helped her out quite a bit in producing and co-writing the majority of the songs on the album. There are a few other side productions by Diplo as well as Switched, but most of the album is her and John Hill producing. What does it sound like? Santigold, of course, had this like punk background, so it does sound a bit post-punk, indie, new wave indie, but there's a huge influence of reggae, ska, dub throughout the entire album. And I'm glad they released this on vinyl. It was out of print for quite a bit. And I hadn't listened to this album since it came out, maybe 10, 12 years ago was the last time I listened to it. And I'm so happy that they featured it in the selection of the month because it's a great album. I don't want to say a new appreciation for it, but I was pleasantly reminded of how good this album sounded. As a matter of fact, it not only received huge critical acclaim when it came out, but it featured on many of the polls and year-end lists of 2008. Some of the songs, the key songs of the album are Les Artistes, Creator, and I believe Lights Out. That was another single. And curious thing is one of the songs, My Superman, actually has an interpolation of a song by Susie and the Banshees. I think that song is Red Light. They actually later received co-writing credit. That's how important the interpolation was in the creation of the song. Not much else to say. Great artist, great album. So if you happen to still have a chance to grab this and either you like it or you happen to stream it, I'm sure you won't be disappointed. I may have mentioned earlier that the main category that I am subscribed to for Vinyl Me Please is the Essentials category. Vinyl Me Please has other categories like hip hop, classics, country, and also rock. So over the last 4 months, I also added that additional selection because it was brand new and they were starting off with really strong titles. As a matter of fact, I've already talked about the debut album of the series and of the Strokes, Is This It?, in a previous video, as well as Sublime. So check those videos out if you're interested to know more about those rock selections. This month, they are featuring an iconic, a classic album by Iggy and the Stooges. The name of the album is Raw Power. And let's do a quick unboxing, show you the contents of the release, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the album. Starting off with the hype sticker, 97 Iggy remix of the album, AAA lacquers cut from tapes by Ryan K. Smith and Jonina Hernez, and a blurb this time on the back of the Obi. Beautifully reproduced jacket on heavy cardstock tip-on jacket with the VMP Rocks logo on the back. We also get a booklet, slightly bigger than the one we saw for Santigold, but no additional images, just an essay or listening notes by Andy O'Connor. Polyline sleeve with 180 gram vinyl pressed on Heart Fulham Napalm color. Nicely pressed, no issues whatsoever. So before we talk about the music and a little bit of the history of the release, I wanted to focus on the album cover. I think one of the best album covers ever. Picture taken by renowned photographer Mick Rock. He's photographed David Bowie, Queen, so many others. His photography has been featured on other album covers. I think this is one of the best album covers that his photography was featured on, and I love this image. I love Mick Rock's work all around, but this is probably one of his best pictures. So, moving on to Iggy and the Stooges. Third album released by the Stooges. This one is titled Iggy and the Stooges. The first two were just the Stooges. At the time, in 1973, they were not very popular, the Stooges. They were not receiving a lot of commercial success, and one of the few people that in print went on record by saying that they are fantastic and was a huge fan was David Bowie. They got signed to Main Man, which is the same management company that David Bowie was on, and flew Iggy Pop and the Stooges to London to record this album. By the way, album came out in 1973, so this is the 50th anniversary. earlier in the year for Record Store Day, there was a repackage of an edition that came out actually in 2012, which features both the, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about, yes, the 50th anniversary is a repackage of the one that I just showed you. I think it was on different vinyl, colored vinyl. This is a standalone release, which includes the Iggy Pop remix of the album. It is the 1997 remix by Iggy Pop. To add a little bit more context and history to the album, originally the album, when it was recorded and presented to the record company, at the time they were signed to Columbia, they objected to what was given to them, and they thought that the album needed a better mixing. I believe Iggy did the first shot at it. Record label did not like it, so they suggested that maybe David Bowie remix the album. Flew him to LA where he remixed it, and that is what was released, except for, I believe, on the US version, Iggy insisted that the first track, Search and Destroy, they use his initial mix. We're not going to get into the differences between the two mixes. You can like one or the other. This version here that I was just showing you earlier actually is a double. This version from 2012 has both the Iggy Pop 1997 remix as well as the original album cut by Kevin Gray. Whereas the Vinyl Me Please is the 1997 remix by Iggy Pop cut by Ryan K. Smith. So much has been said about this album. There's no need for me to add anything else. It is just a classic in its genre, and probably one of Iggy's best albums, or at least one of my favorite. I just wanted to touch a little bit, since I have two versions of it. I don't have an original, and it wouldn't even make sense to compare the original mix to Iggy's mix, but between the two versions that I have here of the Iggy mix, I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts. The Kevin Gray one and the Ryan K. Smith one. I kind of call it almost a draw between the two. There are things that I think are done better on the Vinyl Me Please version, the Ryan K. Smith. I find overall the bass is better reproduced, whereas on the Kevin Gray cut, it may be a little muddy, maybe a little bloated. The bass on the Ryan K. Smith seems to be a little bit more defined and a little tighter, maybe a tad punchier. And then it all depends on the tracks. Some tracks I prefer, I want to say the majority of the tracks, maybe I prefer, because of the bass, the presence of the bass, I may prefer the Ryan K. Smith cut over the Kevin Gray, but the Kevin Gray cut does have, in some instances, a bit more top end, and the soundstage is slightly different on the Kevin Gray cut versus the Ryan K. Smith, but just slightly, and it's only for a couple of tracks. So this is a great deal. You get both mixes. It's still in print. This is the regular version, not the colored 50th anniversary version, but the matrix is the same on both. And the presentation of the Vinyl Me Please is exceptional. It only has the Iggy Pop mix. You won't be dissatisfied. I tend, for the most part, to prefer the 97 mix cut by Ryan K. Smith. But it's a matter of taste, so you can listen for yourself. So that's it for Iggy Pop and the Stooges, or Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power, the Vinyl Me Please selection of the month in the rock category. So for the month of September, I also added an additional track to my regular subscription, and it is the country track, which this month featured a quite unusual release because it featured a country album which was in Spanish. And I'm talking about the Chalino Sanchez 15 Éxitos, which stands for 15 hits, 15 greatest hits. It is a collection of Mexican artist Chalino Sanchez. Quick unboxing, and we'll talk a little bit about the release, and we'll talk a bit about Chalino. The hype sticker tells us that this is the very first time it was pressed on vinyl. Lacquers cut by Cicely Balston at Alchemy Mastering. Our Obi with a description. On the back, our usual blurb, and listening notes by Eric Galindo on the booklet. Just text, no additional pictures. And moving on to the vinyl, which actually sounded very good, quiet, nicely pressed. We have two discs, one on red, and the other one is on yellow vinyl. A little bit of background on Chalino Sanchez. He's a Mexican artist, troubled life. Before his recording career, he had been previously imprisoned, and this is a posthumous release after his death in '92. Album came out in '95 and starts off with his most popular song, which is the 9th of January, Nieves de Enero. Pardon my Spanish, excuse my Spanish if it's not perfect. Chalino Sanchez tragically died. He was actually shot dead right after a show, which was supposed to be kind of like his comeback show. Comeback from a previous shootout that happened actually at Coachella about 5 months earlier. He was having a small show during the Coachella event, and he was actually taking requests from the audience. There was this person who requested a song, not really clear whether or not Chalino was happy with the request, but shortly after, that person jumped on stage and pulled out a gun approaching Chalino, who was also packing a gun, and it was actually a shootout that happened. Various shots were fired. Chalino was shot 5 times, brought to the hospital, and he actually survived. This instantly raised his popularity quite a bit. Up until then, he was more of a regional artist, and other labels started approaching him because they wanted to sign him. He was basically distributing his music through cassettes, homemade cassettes, and the sales of his cassettes immediately shot up incredibly because it was actually reported on the news, and it was a big thing and raised his profile quite a bit. He survived, like I said. After a few months of recovery, he decided to continue his career, and it's kind of unclear as to what ended his life, whether it was a hit from a drug cartel, but it's quite interesting that the last show that he performed at, it's reported that he was handed, before his last song, he was handed a note on stage, basically telling him, this is going to be your last show. He crumpled it up and just threw it out. And shortly after, while he was driving with his cousins and a few, I guess his entourage, his car was stopped, and people in uniform asked him to step away and to enter into another car, and the following morning his body was discovered. He had been tied and shot dead in the head 3 times. So a very sad story, very sad ending to Chalino Sanchez. After that, many compilations were released. This is probably the most popular one, and it was kind of a surprise to me. Maybe not what I was expecting. Very traditional. Unfortunately, I don't have a great grasp of the Spanish language, so I can't really appreciate a lot of the lyrics. And I was told that it is very important to actually listen to his stories, and that's what makes his music much more relatable to a Spanish-speaking audience. I'll give it a little bit more in-depth listening to, and maybe in the end, I will end up liking it. But definitely interesting choice for Vinyl Me Please for their country selection of the month. That kind of wraps it up for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.